Thank you for attending the Founders Session. We now welcome you to another exciting session that will give you a deep understanding of legal technology.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Legal Tech non-event cast, exclusively from Above the Law. I'm your host, Jared Correia, and legal tech is my bag. As almost everybody knows, lawyers aren't exactly early adopters of technology. And for many attorneys, the prospect of traditional tech conferences triggers only thoughts of boredom and makes them break out into hives over missed billables. That's why we've launched the Above the Law non-event to bring the technology conversation direct to lawyers. And if the non-event is a virtual conference center, think of the non-event cast as your main stage panel. I'll be hosting sessions on a wide variety of topics with a new coverage area each episode. Every episode of the show, we're going to talk legal technology in plain English, and our podcast format is geared to meet the crush of your fully booked schedule. Today, we're going to discuss building a technology platform in a law firm with a real, live, practicing attorney. That's right. As our panelist is aware, our goal here is not to pitch you, but to help our audience understand the benefits, options, and latest developments in the space. Today, we have a fantastic guest. His name is Raymond Desimwe, and he is the founder and managing partner at Bitelix Advocates. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right, we're going to get into it. So today we're going to talk about how law firms can maximize technology. In other words, what does the perfect tech stack look like for a law firm? Is that a real thing? Or is it more like the futile search for a holy grail? Now, there's two ways to think about this. The first relates to picking the best technology and getting the most out of it. Most attorneys don't use a significant percentage of software features they have available to them. So they're not maximizing the value of those tools or the efficiency. It also means that most law firm managers are buying more technology than they need because they're trying to buy additional tools that already exist in the software they already have. But maximizing the tech you can buy is only one side of the coin. For some time, experts have been advising law firms to act more like tech companies, including yours truly. So does that mean that you should build your own software too? Let's find out. All right, Raymond, let's kick this thing off, but let's start slow. How do you make decisions about choosing technology for your law firm? How do you buy the right stuff, in other words?
Thank you, Jared. I think that's a decision that every law firm struggles with. I remember as a firm, one of the things that I think a very good way to start is to then ask yourself, do you even need technology in the first place? You begin to realize that you need technology when, basic efficiency is throttled or you're not productive enough. And then it's very good to start slow, ground up. You start with basic things. You can start as basic as a calendar. Then you think of a case management system that covers billables. At the end of the day, the most important thing is building around your work process as a law firm and identifying the unique tasks that you do on a regular or the needs that you might need as a law firm. And then you can then choose the right technology for your law firm. It's very important to grow into it easily and not just abruptly take the step. It's really important to build it around the needs of the firm.
I think that's a really cool approach. So we do these podcasts unscripted, essentially. And I didn't expect you to say, let's see if we need technology in the first place. Because I think most lawyers are going to be like, let me get the tech first, and then I'll build a law firm. But this approach means you want to get the law firm launched, see what you need, and then when there's pain points, buy the technology to fill that. Did I misstate that, or is that kind of where you're going with that?
No, that's right, Jared. You got it.
Now, the other piece of this is once you're ramping up to that technology, you're taking it slow. Maybe you're starting out with spreadsheets and then you're using case management technology when you get busy enough. How do you avoid buying the new shiny objects? That's a tempting thing. Like I talk to lawyers about this all the time. And is it necessary to always go out and be in line and buy the newest version of the iPhone when it comes out? Or can you wait?
Wow, very exciting. I think it's very exciting. If you're a device person or if you're a tech person, you'll always want the next thing. It's very exciting to have it. I mean, it's good to behold. It gives you some sort of excitement. But one thing you quickly realize is that try to take off some time and look at that shiny new product or shiny new service that you're trying to purchase for your law firm. Get as much information as you can and try to see if there are any incremental changes, from what you already have. If it solves what your software already does or what your tech product already does for you, then I think the decision to buy is not necessary. If you find that there are a bunch of incremental updates that have been made to this, shiny new object, then by all means, make the investment to go ahead and buy it. It's already the decision how much information you have. If you don't have enough information on this shiny new product, it just makes it easy for you to buy. You'll just go ahead and buy without thinking about it. But I find that with enough information about the new object, you can make a very informed decision to buy.
Now, we're going to revisit this a little bit later. Staff, you're a managing attorney. It's a decision that you can make on your own, what technology you buy for the law firm, and whether you buy the new shiny object. What if one of your staff people comes to you and says, hey, I need the new iPhone, but you disagree? How do you manage that conversation? And like I said, we'll come back to this at the end, but how do you tell people no?
I think one of the things to point out is if it is a decision that someone is making, they come to you. Some of these decisions are more of personal decisions compared to managerial decisions, in my opinion. As a manager, there comes a time when you need to actually think about what your law firm needs, and you need to make a compelling reason why you might need something or why you might not. So if someone comes to me and is in the firm and says, look, that's more of a preference for them, it's a personal decision, and they're free to go ahead and make the purchase if they want. But if I feel the iPhone 10 or the 12 is perfect for my firm right now, that is what everyone gets.
And yeah, I think firms were doing this for a long time, but I think it's been exacerbated by the pandemic, right? Because more people are working from home. You can tell me if this has happened at your firm, but my experience has been that more and more employees of law firms are buying and using their own technology and then utilizing the cloud-based software that the law firm has on the devices they want. Has that been your experience as well?
Yes. So it's been interesting, and it's been a journey. When the pandemic came through, you quickly realize that you need to take as much of your work to the cloud. One of the basic things we did was to, deploy Teams using Microsoft Teams to do a lot of our work. And then we realized that there was some special nuances or intricacies of our workflow that even Teams couldn't handle. And then that, made us make a decision to go ahead and build our own platform. And that is something that you can easily decide on when you realize that the existing platforms around or everything around you doesn't meet your unique circumstances. I'll just give you an example. For instance, we've tried to do invoicing through the cloud using all the different softwares around. I won't mention them because I'm a lawyer. I don't want to get into any hot soup.
Thank you, sir. And we want to keep our sponsorships. Good call.
But one of the things we realized with the way we invoice, for instance, at least for us, it's very clear. It should be clear to the client that you're invoicing professional fees and at the same time invoicing disbursements. And that, should be clear at the invoice. When we looked at the invoices that these softwares are generating for us, most of them didn't give us that flexibility and fluidity. And then also, you won't believe this, but a lot of them are not designed for partnership accounting, at least the ones that we saw. Yeah. So then that got us thinking, design a platform that handles the invoicing and at the same time would handle our workflow just as you would on a day-to-day basis as a lawyer at Bytenex.
So this is a great point that you make and a segue into what I also want to talk to you about, which is, and you gave the example of invoicing. How do you decide as a firm that the technology that we need isn't out there and we need to build it? Is that a decision you make? Is that a decision you make in conjunction with your staff and employees and partners? How do you arrive at that decision, generally speaking?
I think a very good starting point for that, Jared, is try out what's there. It's very important to try it out because if you want to fix something, there's a chance that someone has seen that problem before and tried to fix it for you. So the best place to start is to try the different softwares that exist. Subscribe to as many of them as you can. I would recommend 2 or 3 depending on your budget, and then just see if they offer what you want. When you begin to realize that you've tried them for a month or 2 and you're not getting the value that you want out of them, then the decision to build your own around your work processes becomes very easy.
So the idea is you have to have workflows established first, see whether the technology fits that, and then build, which is interesting because, as I said, I think some attorneys look at this and they say, let's get the technology in place and build the workflows around that. And your approach is different. I like the fact that your approach is, let's build the systems we want, build out our law firm the way we want to build it, work the way we want to build it, and then find technology that fits that rather than vice versa.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a law firm I was reading about a few years back, and they were basically like, hey, we really like Slack, so we're going to build our processes around how Slack works. And your conception is almost the opposite.
Yeah, I agree. So I think if, depending on how you want to build your law firm out, I find that if you build something around your work processes, it just makes it really easy to add modules and add things that you might actually need in your day-to-day work. If you're building around someone's technology, you don't have as much flexibility. That's how I would say it. So,
no, you're right. Like that off-the-shelf software is built for a general law firm, not your law firm.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because of that, if you're building everything, around someone's software, you have to play within their rules. Yeah, and you have to play within their modules. So maybe it's just me, but I don't want to feel like that if I'm building my business.
Who wants to play by the rules? So there's a related topic to this, though, which is where the rubber meets the road. So let's say you've decided the technology out there for this specific use case doesn't work for me. I'm going to build my own thing. How do you build it? Attorneys aren't necessarily tech people. So do you find a partner to build it for you? Do you use in-house resources to build it for you? How does that go? How do you make that choice?
Oh, interesting. So I find that, and then not to sound strange here, but I find that if you get a consulting firm, a software consulting firm, they just, 10 or 20% of the process. They've probably worked on a bunch of projects, but they don't have that much experience in building legal software or building around your work processes. If you do find a firm that has that experience, even better. But for the most part, at least from my experience, I found that consulting firms that build software won't know how lawyers build, won't know how lawyers operate. In fact, a lot of them get surprised that, the lawyers do the billing. They feel the billing should, be centralized with one cashier or one accountant to do that. So those are pain points that you'll find. If you're lucky to find an experienced firm to do it, then good for you. I think that would be useful. So then that leaves you with very few options. Either get an experienced firm that has worked with law firms to build such software, or build in-house capacity with lawyers that have experience developing softwares. And that's what we've done as a firm. So we have in-house developers, some in a consulting role, others that are actual lawyers that do the legal work, but also have development experience. When you have that, then those lawyers can actually build the software around the workflows and the needs that you have. It's always, I think the best choice would be if you have someone internal that has that bit of experience to build software.
That's really interesting. So I think most lawyers, if I did an informal poll, which I haven't done, would want to hire out. They'd want to find that tech firm to help them build something. But I think you make an interesting point, which is that there are very few technology firms out there or development shops that work exclusively with lawyers. Like it's too small a market. So there's education there. Now, the hiring thing is really interesting to me. So it sounds like you have both people in your firm who are just tech people who work on technology, and then lawyers who have technology experience. So how do you decide who to hire in that space? And with the attorneys in particular, how do they split their time? How much time do they spend on the technology side? How much time do they spend on the billing side?
If you decide to go down that path, lawyers like some bit of autonomy, I would put it that way. They like to work on cool projects or at least the firm that we built has designed it that way. If we hire you as a lawyer, you get to work on the different projects that the firm has. So the lawyers that build these softwares know that they have the flexibility to spend some time building the software, but then also work on a few legal projects that come. Again, the process is magical if they're able to work on the legal work that is out there, because then it informs their decisions to build the product that you want. So
right. That's a great point. If you do this correctly, they're now technologists who intimately understand how a law firm works.
exactly. But to your point of how do you divide this, the billing and so on, of course, if they are working on a legal project, they will definitely bill for that. But then if they are spending time working on the software, then there's a bunch of models you could think of that. They could do that in a consulting role, and you could just pay them for that. Or it could be something that you agree on that gives them some sort of revenue share or percentage in the software that you're making.
Yeah. And I guess part of the question is, and I don't think you've gone down this road yet, but if you're a law firm who builds software for your particular use case, there's a chance to sell that software to the wider market as well. So you could spin that off if you wanted to.
Yes, that's true, Jared. And there's a bunch of opportunities we've seen. So if you build it so well, there's opportunities to give people access to your API, to give them access to integrations with your software. There's a few things that, and I find maybe this is something that I've found that is really interesting. Rather than spend so much time selling the software, the integrations might make sense, especially if you build them around the products that you have as a firm. So for instance, as a firm, we do quite a bit of work in the startups and technology emerging companies. Mm-hmm. So you could decide, for instance, to say that all we are selling as an integration is the ability to generate a cap table, and then you give people that, and then they can do whatever they want with it. So it's important that as you build this, you build it around the products or the services that you have, and then you just offer them as APIs or integrations for people to use.
But it's an interesting notion that if you built your own legal software, you could then integrate it with the softwares you use and buy off the shelf. That would be what any technology company would do, and that gets you into the wider marketplace as well. It's a really clever thing to do. It gives you another revenue stream as a law firm. And you're going to use the software anyway. So I guess part of this is it's a real mindset change for a lawyer to go and do what you've done. I think very few lawyers get to this point. So kudos to you. But how do you, most lawyers focus on, if I'm going to hire an attorney to work for, on bottom line revenue, I need that person to bill and be productive. But they don't necessarily see the value of this other component of it, the technology part. So you have to see value in that as well. Did it take you a while to see that? Did you figure it out right away? Like, how did you move away from this traditional lawyer notion, which is I hire associates, I hire lawyers to bill, and change that into I hire lawyers to bill and build technology? Because that's a hard thing to do.
I agree. And I won't say it was easy having a lawyer that builds and builds for certain assignments. First of all, the biggest effect you'll see is development work takes quite a lot of work. So that means it's going to cut into their billables and how much time they spend on certain assignments. And then you feel the productivity and the efficiency, or you feel that the finances are being affected of the firm in one or another. But when you begin to look at the value of the software, if you're able to look beyond that and you look extremely ahead in the future to see the efficiency that you might be able to get out of allowing someone to spend some time to develop this software, I think the decision is easy for you to allow to spend that time on building that software.
Yeah, a lawyer with that skill set probably has more effect on the firm as a whole than an attorney who's just sitting and billing cases. So one more thing I wanted to ask you about. I think this is great. You got technology that you're using, making coherent decisions about. You've got technology that you're building. Now, how about the staff? Because you've got attorneys who code, attorneys who don't. You got traditional partners, non-traditional partners. How do you get people to buy in to all this?
Wow. So, Jared, or you've probably seen this from your experience. Very few attorneys embrace technology easily. And I know there's a bunch of attorneys out there. Technology is a big deal for them and they'll take it because of its efficiency. But one thing, and I think it's because of our training, we're very cautious about taking something new. We would like to look at it from all angles and then think of another way that something could have been done. So a lot of the discussions we have when we're doing this, at least with my partners and the other lawyers, is, isn't there another way to do this? Should we use this system? Because people think maybe we could try this or we could try that, because people have been trained to see things from different angles. And those are the discussions you'll have for a while. But what I found really helps when you build these systems is take off time and ease people into the system. If you front load everything at a go, then you're going to have a lot of issues across the board. And then the beauty with giving them bits and pieces of your solution is that you can train them and teach them and help them grow into that solution slowly. So I think the trick here is give them bits and pieces of what you're developing. Spend time creating tutorials, video tutorials, if possible, for them to see how they can actually interact with the small piece that you've done. So for instance, in my farm, we're preparing them to learn that part of the culture is that every few months there'll be a new build for the software we're building. So if you make them expect that, there's always that expectation that there's something new we're adding, and then there'll be that curiosity of how it will improve the farm. So I think that helps when you're building.
I think that's great. And like it tracks back to your thesis of let's not do this in a hurry. Let's be methodical about it and go slow and build it out the right way. Now, the other piece of this too that's clear to me is this is about transparency as well. In a lot of law firms, they buy new software and they say, hey, everybody, guess what? We bought new software. Here it is. Start using it. That's not your approach at all. You're saying, let's roll this out slow. Let's get everybody used to it. Let's make sure everybody's part of that process. And I assume part of that process is feedback from people about how they feel about different iterations of software. And that's just a wholly different way to view this. So how important do you feel that transparency is in general to getting buy-in at your law firm?
I think if you make it very participatory right from the ground up with people involved in the process, giving you feedback, and then if you're solving their pain points from the ground, and every time you roll out a build and you get back to them and tell them, hey, George or Martin, remember that pain point you pointed out last time? We fixed it, and this is now how you can, get things done or to overcome that pain point. I find that if you have that feedback, if you have that ground-up approach, it just makes things much easier for you.
Hey, this was a great conversation today. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I could do this for another hour, but thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks as well. It's been exciting.
Yeah, no, this I love I do so many podcasts, but this was a really good one. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming in today. We talked about legal tech. Nobody popped an ACL. I'll take it. Today, you heard from Raymond DeSimway from Bytelix Advocates. For more information on Bytelix Advocates, visit bytelexhq.com. That's bytelexhq.com. Thanks to my guests, Raymond, and thanks